Hello, and welcome to the Legal Environment of Business. I'm your Professor John Harvey, and here we are in week 6. And actually, when you look at the semester and the way that the end of the semester kind of rolls out, where we don't have a final, we only have 1 week in December, and because of Thanksgiving week off, you're almost halfway through the semester. It's kind of crazy. We're not quite there, but we're getting close. So good job, guys, on getting through as much as you have. This week, you're working on chapter 12 and 13 in the material. And so we're kind of back to a normal deal. You guys have gone through a test, and I think you'll be comfortable now with kind of how the course is laid out and how things, what to expect. So with that, I want to jump right into the discussion board award. So we were talking about the imports, ways that you could do tariffs or ways to benefit or stop things from coming into the country. And so one of the ones that was probably the best that really cracked me up, and granted there were some really good ones. You guys clearly knew what you liked and didn't like, and there were some pretty funny ones in there, but I have to give the grossest picture award, and the grossest picture award goes to Josh because he had that watery ketchup. Oh, that was so gross. Oh, so gross. I mean, some of you guys don't like ketchup. I totally get that. Some of you guys, I don't like pickles. Everyone's got their thing. But just seeing that watery stuff all over the bread, I was like, oh, yeah, well, there's no way I could eat that. Oh, so gross. So, way to gross everybody out, Josh. Well done. Now, I did want to jump into something that now that you've gone through a test, and some of you had actually asked me about this, and so I thought it'd be good to kind of explain this to everybody. Part of the reason why these quizzes and tests can be challenging in my course is because of the way I'm choosing the questions, the way I'm working those. So those are all situational questions, or as much as possible I use situational ones. And what that does is that really forces you into having to understand the concepts, not just be familiar with them. And this course is a 200 level class, but it can also double as a 300 level class. So a lot of times students will take this course, take the material, the textbook and all that, and when you go into a 4-year school, this can translate to that 300 level legal environment class that's needed. So I treat it like a 300 level class. And some of you may not be familiar with this. I wasn't initially familiar with this, but this is my little spin on how this works out. So in a 100 level class, you spend the majority of your time just learning terms, just memorizing definitions. So part of that is getting the nomenclature of whatever material or course or subject or industry you're in. So it's just a matter of learning the names of things. And so 100 level class, you just spend a lot of the time going, this is a debit, this is a credit, this is a asset, this is a liability, this is a campaign, this is a promotion, this is a contract, this is a tort. You're just getting these terms. That's all you're focusing on, really. And so you're getting kind of exposed to that. Then when you get to a 200 level class, you start talking about concepts. So it's not just about the definitions of all these terms, but then you start talking about, what is this thing, or what is this context about this? So, let's talk about the Constitution. So I'm not just talking about the Constitution is blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, what does the Constitution represent? Right? What is it? What was its intent? What's its purpose? And what are other types of constitutions? And so you get kind of a concept as to what that is, not just a strict definition, right? And then when you get to a 300 level class, you're taking terms, concepts, and now you're starting to apply that information to situations. you're getting kind of aware of that. So, I give you an example of something, and then you have to look through your tool bag of information and say, I think this thing applies. And that's what lawyers do all the time, right? Somebody comes in, they say, hey, I had this partner that did this and did that, and then I did this and I did that. What do you do? And the lawyer's taking all that situational information, and then he's starting to apply those concepts and those pieces and those, the little puzzle pieces to that, and trying to get the framework together for that. So that's kind of a 300 level type course, right? Now, if you get into a 400 level, that's when you start not just applying it, but you'll start kind of combining things, right? So how do two concepts, fit together, right? How can we have freedom and security, right? Those kinds of things. So those are like 400 level classes. And then 500 and up, then when you're in your master's and PhD programs, that's where you start to come up with your own. You start to create your own definitions, your own concepts, your own principles, and you start, building that out and proving that stuff. So there's really kind of a hierarchy. There's a strategy. There's a layout here, and where this is a 200 or 300 level class, you'll find this is challenging. You're like, hey, wait a second. I read through the whole chapter, and I understood everything I read, but I'm still not doing well on my quizzes or on the test. Well, the reason is because you may be familiar with the material, but the question is, do you really know it? And so one of the things I tell people is I say, okay, to prove that you know something, what you need to do is be able to define it in your own terms and be able to give an example. And if you can just do that, so if I say, what's a tort? You have to come up with your own wording, not just memorize some rote thing, but you have to come up with your own words as to what a tort is, and then give an example of it. Now, if you can do that, then you're familiar enough and you know it enough to now be able to apply it to a situation. And that's where this course is. So for some of you, this might be new information. Nobody ever kind of laid it out for me. And so this is something I thought would be helpful for you guys. If you really want to, up your game on your quizzes and your tests, really think about it in those, in that context of how do I really know this stuff, and do I really know it? Can I, give it my own definition? Can I give it an example? And that's kind of a way in my own head to secure or confirm that I know this thing, right? All right, guys. With that, have a great week, and best of luck in chapter 12 and 13. And I look forward to talking to you guys again soon. All right.